What if the person you're searching for is the one you've always been? There's a quiet truth hiding beneath the noise of daily life. We are born whole, not broken, not incomplete, whole. But this wholeness, so natural, so effortless, is fragile in the face of life. From the moment we begin to form a sense of I, of selfhood, of being someone separate, that original unity begins to fracture. We drift, we forget, and what once was a seamless experience of being becomes a puzzle of parts, roles, and masks. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist who peered deeper into the human psyche than most dared to look, saw this journey as the central arc of human life. He believed we begin in union, move into separation, and, if we're willing, return to that unity transformed. He called this journey the path from ego to self. In Jung's view, the first half of life is about building the ego, carving out identity, finding our place in the world, making choices that define who we think we are. But the second half? That's about returning to the self, reuniting with the vast, mysterious depths of our being that were there from the start. The ego is not the enemy. It helps us function, protects us, gives us shape. But when it becomes the only voice we listen to, we lose the music of the whole. Jung wrote, "The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference which embraces both conscious and unconscious." The ego is merely the center of consciousness, a fragment. When that fragment tries to rule the entire psyche, we become imbalanced, one-dimensional, lost in the illusion that we are only what we can name, prove, or control. This imbalance leads to what Jung called psychic dissociation, a state in which parts of ourselves are alienated, cut off, silenced. The unconscious becomes a shadow realm we fear rather than explore. We live on the surface, disconnected from the deep well of wisdom, creativity, and feeling that lies beneath. And yet, something in us remembers. Not with the mind, but with the soul. We feel it as longing, as restlessness, as the sense that something's missing, even when everything looks fine. That's the call to return, not backward, but inward, to reclaim the forgotten parts of ourselves and weave them into something new. But the return isn't easy. The path to wholeness is not a retreat into innocence. It is a conscious, courageous movement into integration. It asks us to revisit our beginnings, not to regress, but to reawaken. The danger lies in mistaking comfort for completeness. The desire to remain in the protective embrace of the mother archetype, to stay dependent, safe, unchallenged, is seductive, but it leads to stagnation. The child who never grows becomes the man-child, an adult in form, but not in spirit. He resists growth. He fears change. He confuses avoidance for peace. True maturity, Jung would say, is not about abandoning the child within, but integrating it, bringing its gifts, curiosity, imagination, play into our adult lives with depth and responsibility. Friedrich Nietzsche offered a powerful image of this transformation in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He described 3 stages of spiritual evolution: the camel, the lion, and the child. The camel bears burdens. The lion rebels and claims freedom. But the child? The child is the final metamorphosis. The child is innocence and forgetfulness, Nietzsche wrote. A new beginning, a game, a self-propelling wheel, a sacred yes. This child isn't naive, it's wise with wonder. It doesn't carry the past like a burden. It doesn't define itself by expectations. It says yes to life not because it understands everything, but because it is free to create, to imagine, to become. But in our world, imagination is often the first casualty of growing up. We're taught to trade play for productivity, daydreams for deadlines. We lose touch with the inner child, not the one who needs parenting, but the one who knows how to dance with the unknown. The one who still believes the world is alive with magic. And yet, It lingers. Beneath the surface of who we think we are, the inner child waits. Not helpless, not immature, but ready to lead us back to the fullness of being. We see glimpses in our nostalgia, our love for stories, our sudden joy at a song, or a smell that stirs forgotten feelings. These are clues, traces of the self we once knew and still carry. Children live in a world of wonder. In their eyes, everything is alive. A stick becomes a sword, a blanket a cape, a tree a spaceship. This isn't just play, it's profound. It's how the psyche explores the world. Jung recognized this sacred play, writing, "The dynamic principle of fantasy is play, a characteristic also of the child, and as such, it appears inconsistent with the principle of serious work. But without playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The imagination isn't an escape, it's a bridge, a way back to the parts of ourselves that are wild, wise, and whole. When we deny this play, we deny our creativity, our vitality. We become machines in the guise of humans, efficient, perhaps, but empty. To reconnect with the inner child is not to retreat from life, it's to re-enter it more fully, to see again, to feel again, to allow joy, surprise, and beauty to shape our days. It means letting go of the rigid armor we've built and welcoming a softness that is no less strong. This is not weakness, it is radical presence. Jung believed this process of falling apart and coming back together, what he called individuation, was the essence of our psychological and spiritual development. We are not meant to stay in pieces. We are meant to become whole. But this wholeness is not a return to who we were. It is a transformation into who we are becoming. And becoming takes time. It takes courage. It takes what Jung called inner work, the slow, sacred labor of turning inward, facing the shadow, and listening to the quiet voice of the soul. It means honoring the unconscious, engaging with dreams, and welcoming the discomfort that comes with growth. Ancient wisdom echoes this truth. In the Taoist text, The Secret of the Golden Flower, it is written, "Only after 100 days of consistent work is the light genuine. Only then can one begin to work with the spirit fire." Transformation does not happen in a flash. It is forged through attention, discipline, and devotion to the inner world. And so the journey continues. Each of us walking our spiral path, breaking apart, coming back together, shedding old skins, listening for the voice beneath the noise, returning again and again to something deeper, truer, more whole. Not because we are broken, but because we are becoming. In this context, the light represents far more than simple illumination. It symbolizes an acute, almost piercing state of awareness. This is not the soft glow of a candle, but a searing clarity that cuts through layers of unconsciousness and denial. It's the type of light that reveals the forgotten corridors of the mind, the repressed emotions, the inherited patterns we never questioned. It is the brave, often uncomfortable awareness that turns inward instead of seeking distractions outside. To walk toward this light is to begin the most sacred and terrifying journey we can take, the one into the self. Carl Jung grasped this intuitively. He warned us against merely worshiping the light without learning to see it. He said, "It is high time we realize that it is pointless to praise the light and preach it if nobody can see it. It is much more needful to teach people the art of seeing. To see clearly is to confront not only the beauty of our potential, but also the shadowy terrain of our psyche." Awareness, then, is not always pleasant. It demands honesty, humility, and the courage to sit with what we would rather avoid. The journey to the self, what Jung called individuation, is not a linear march toward enlightenment. It is not a mountain we climb with a flag to plant at the summit. Instead, it is circular, spiraling, even chaotic at times. Jung referred to this path as circumambulation. the act of walking around something sacred, returning again and again with new eyes, deeper understanding. Life brings us back to the same themes, the same wounds, but each time, if we are paying attention, we are slightly more prepared, slightly more whole. What once triggered pain may now reveal purpose. Jung experienced this firsthand. During one of the darkest periods of his life, he wrote, "I began to understand that the goal of psychic development is the self. There is no linear evolution, only a circumambulation of the self." This idea didn't just offer him intellectual comfort, it stabilized his entire inner world. He came to see that the center of this spiraling path is not a final destination, but a place of deep integration where all parts of the psyche, shadow, persona, ego, and spirit are acknowledged and held in balance. To find your center is to discover an oasis in the chaos. The world, with all its noise, distractions, and demands, constantly pulls us to the outer rim. The rim is where the pursuit of money, fame, power, and validation spins us in cycles of craving and dissatisfaction. No matter how fast we run, the center remains elusive unless we choose to turn inward. And yet, when we do find it, even fleetingly, it offers something extraordinary, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstance, a clarity that doesn't shatter under pressure. Ancient and medieval traditions understood this truth long before modern psychology. In symbolic language, they depicted the human condition as a great wheel. At the rim, life is tumultuous. Kings rise and fall, lovers are gained and lost, fortunes shift like sand. The inscription around this wheel captures the eternal cycle. I am reigning. I have reigned. I have lost my kingdom. I shall reign again. The wheel spins, but its center remains unmoved. At that sacred still point, medieval art often places Christ, not merely as a religious figure, but as the archetype of wholeness, the self-realized. This image is more than allegory. It's a spiritual instruction. To live at the rim is to be at the mercy of life's storms, endlessly reactive. To live from the center is to tap into a source of strength that does not waver. It is to become the calm eye of the hurricane, the steady flame in the whirlwind. The ancient Greeks had a word for this inner harmony, apatheia. Often misunderstood as apathy, its true meaning is far more profound. It refers to a state of serene detachment, not from life itself, but from the turmoil caused by unchecked emotion and desire. Apatheia is not numbness. It's the quiet confidence of one who has stopped trying to control the uncontrollable. It is the soul's exhale after years of holding its breath. The Stoics, masters of this philosophy, taught the dichotomy of control. Some things are within our power, our thoughts, choices, and actions, while others are not. To suffer needlessly, they said, is to mistake the two. By learning to accept what we cannot change and taking full ownership of what we can, we begin to loosen the chains of anxiety and fear. This is not passive surrender, but active wisdom. Imagine walking through life, not constantly reacting to every offense, every challenge, every unpredictable turn. Imagine being able to witness your own emotions with compassion, but not be ruled by them. This is the fruit of apatheia, a tranquility that does not deny the storm, but learns how to sail through it. But like all sacred states, apatheia is temporary. It arrives like a breeze, graceful, unbidden, and may vanish just as quietly. We cannot force it. We can only make space for it by aligning the ego with the deeper self. This alignment is like tuning an instrument. When it is off, our inner world feels dissonant, out of sync. When it is tuned, even briefly, the music of our life becomes clear, resonant, meaningful. These moments of alignment are precious because they reveal what it feels like to be whole. They show us what life can be when we are not at war with ourselves. And yet, they cannot be clung to. As soon as we try to possess them, they slip away. That too is part of the teaching. Those who never find this alignment remain trapped at the wheel's rim. They may look successful on the surface, but inside they are spinning, caught in loops of anxiety, seeking happiness in all the wrong places. They chase novelty, applause, control. But nothing truly satisfies, because satisfaction does not live at the rim. It lives at the center. The path inward is not for the faint of heart. It requires radical self-honesty, courage to face the shadow, and patience for the slow unfolding of transformation. But it is the only path that leads to real peace. As Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Our pain is not an obstacle to the center, it is the gateway. And so we walk, again and again, around the sacred circle of the self. With each step, we shed illusions. With each return, we come closer to truth. This is the work of a lifetime, maybe many, but the reward is beyond measure. To touch the center, even once, is to know that freedom is not something we earn, it is something we remember. It has always been there, quietly waiting beneath the noise. And once we find it, we are never quite the same.